life is a series of choices. We can summarize that our life is simply that, a successive, moment by moment choosing. Now, there is a limitation to this. We have to understand this judiciously. We have some type of choice at every moment of our life. And we need to acknowledge that. Certainly, there are many things about our life which we don't have a choice about. We didn't choose the scenario of our family or where we were born. Many of those situations. We didn't choose it in the sense that we choose, what types of shoes to wear today when we leave the house. According to the doctrine of karma, those situations which we were born in were the result of actions of previous lives. But in talking about this present existence, the stage of our life was already set. So that half of it, we don't have a choice. It's already been set. It's already been chosen. But the other half is moment by moment. What are we going to do with the situation that we're in right now? There's always that type of choice. Now, in this moment, how much choice, or we can say agency to act freely, it varies. Everybody has a different amount based upon where they live and the political factors and whether they have a stable society that they're living in or a chaotic society. Whether they're, in terms of this pandemic, whether we're living under some type of lockdown or restrictions. But those are the external type of things. And again, the real type of choice that we have is internal. Because as some type of restriction is imposed upon us, we have some response internally to it. You may not have a choice as to whether or not somebody is insulting you. That's their will. That's what they did. But you have a choice of how you respond to it. You may not really have a choice of many aspects of your life, but you must recognize that you have a choice in how you respond. It's critical. Because we get locked inside of narratives that remove what little agency we have. We can get locked inside of narratives, ideas, or stories that we've told ourselves or that others have told us about how we may not have any freedom, how certain things are impossible, or we might have just come up with it ourselves. But moment by moment, we have a choice on how to respond. And the ways that we choose to respond need to be in alignment with the highest ethics. So we need to know what our ethical ideals are. All of us have some type of ideal within us, what makes a good person, how we should basically orientate our lives. We may very well believe in them very strongly. But the moment-by-moment responses that we give to the world, are they in alignment with that? Because it becomes extremely convenient to forget about it, to ignore that. And this is how, one way that we become a hypocrite. This is what we all are guilty of this, because ideals are just that, extremely difficult to uphold. However, it's necessary to have them. It's necessary to try to uphold them. Because when we are dealing with a good ethic, it is our guidance. It is our roadmap, our sign to make that right choice. And we have to reflect, and sometimes we have to revise those ideals, those ethics. But whether or not we consciously revise them, or whether we've never paid attention to them, we're living by something. It may be a narrative that we've never uncovered within ourselves. Because whether or not we're conscious of our own story that we tell ourselves, or unconscious of the story we tell ourselves, there's some story. These stories we tell ourselves, generally speaking, are very far from reality. It's so easy to get lost or to tell yourself a story how that, for example, you have been wronged by the world, or that you have sacrificed too much and no one has recognized the sacrifices you've done, for example, for a family member, or how they've always wronged you, things like this. We tell ourselves those stories. There's some reason why. We have to become conscious of that. We're looking to get something out of it. And these are precisely one way that those patterns of behavior become strengthened. These are patterns. When I say patterns of energy, I just mean, just think of your thoughts as a cycle of energy inside of your mind. And every time we go down the wrong path, we reinforce that pathway. So what becomes wrong becomes easy. That's a terrible situation we find ourselves in. So a lot of times people, when they're not truly reflecting on this, they tell themselves a story that they couldn't have acted in any other way. We couldn't have done anything, anything better. Now, this is not an exercise in self-deprecating ourselves. We just have to uncover the truth, not just listen to the first little story that we tell ourselves. I'm not advocating that you need to replace that story with something else. The fact is, in our current situation, it's just going to be there. Even if we try to get rid of it, we have a story of trying to not have one. But little by little, as we awaken our consciousness, that sort of behavior reduces. And what replaces it is actual presence, awareness, consciousness. Just seeing the reality as it is, without having to place a fabric of what I keep referring to as the narrative. There's narratives that we tell ourselves, the stories. Sometimes we call it our psychological song, a sort of song that we always sing to ourselves. When something goes wrong, we might say, why me? This always happens to me. Of course this happened to me on this day. Of course it always happens like this. Little things like that. You have to investigate that impulse. Because right then and there, we're choosing to feed into that. And it doesn't even feel like we're making a choice. It's as if our mind has responded already in that way. And the reason it's responding in that way is that we have conditioned ourselves into that. And we end up behaving in a way that in the beginning it feels like it's a good thing to behave in that way. But in the end, it leads us towards ignorance. So the big choice of our life is, how do we choose to pay attention? And the way that we normally respond to the world may be a very conditioned way. And our choice has to then become to live in accordance with our highest ethic,